Okay. Fan on.
All right. We're on Hey
All
Fest.
right. All right. Sorry. Hey, Kess. Okay. What are her signs? Rosh Hashanah says from when a crease forms under the breast. Rabbi Akiva says when the breast hangs down. But Azai says when the areola darkens. Rabbi Yoshi says from when the breast is large enough that one can put his hand on the nipple and it sinks in and delays returning to its original position. In the case of a 20-year-old female who has not brought on two pubic hairs, she shall bring proof that she is 20 years old and she must be exhibit the signs of an alonis. And then she neither performs chalitza or is taken as a Yuban wife. In the case of a 20-year-old man who has not produced two pubic hairs, he shall bring proof that he is 20 years old and he must also exhibit the signs of a saris. And then he neither performs chalitza nor takes his brother's widow as a Yuban wife. These are the words of Rabbi Beis Hillel. And Shammai says the aforementioned rules apply to this female and to that male when they are 18 years old. And Eliezer says the law of the male accords with the opinion of Beis Hillel, and the law of the female accords with the opinion of Beis Shammai, and for the woman hastens to come as physical maturity before the man. When the lower sign comes before the upper sign comes, a girl performs chalitza or yibum. When the upper sign comes before the lower sign comes, even though this is not possible, Rameya says she performs either chalitza and not yibum. But the compensation performs either Kalitza or Yuba because they have it said it is possible to have the lower side come before the upper sign has to come, and it's not possible for the upper side to come before the lower side has come.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So now we start with this Mishnah starts with Koyotze Bo, but it's got absolutely nothing to do with Niddah. The rest of
Okay.
the rest of this parak now is going to be a lot of short Mishnayos. I don't know if the whole of the Mishnah, no, the whole of the parak, no, not the whole of the parak. But at any rate, seeing as Kamala Harris loves Venn diagrams, well, we love Venn diagrams in this parak because these are now Venn diagrams that look like concentric circles. Okay, so so we're going to see a lot of things. So what did we come out of before is that we saw signs of sexual maturity in a girl. It's possible to have the lower sign without the upper sign, but not the other way around. Okay, so now Kiyotze Bo in a similar vein. Kol kli cheres shehu machnis motzi. Okay, I've wondered a lot about the physics of this, and why it would be. Perhaps because I was imagining that if you took a kli and submerged it in the water, I
Right.
would imagine that creates a lot of pressure to push water in. Um,
Uh-huh.
I thought, is that really a thing? But maybe if you imagine it this way, that if you hold, it's saying that any kli that lets water out, called shihuma, any kli cheres that's got a big enough hole that water will come in from the outside, will also let water out from the inside. But not, but there are things that will let water out from the inside, but won't let water in from the outside. Okay, so I think how does that work physically? And I think it's because if you have a full kli, then you've got all the water pressure of everything inside the kli, and that pressure will push the water down through whatever hole. But if the kli is just floating on top of water, let's just say I'm just saying it's floating, not that it's been pushed down, because I think if it's been pushed down, you're going to get a lot more pressure. Um, so if it's just floating on top of and there's a hole in the bottom, it doesn't have as much pressure to push water into the kli as it does if there's water inside the kli trying to get out. Okay, so that's what our Mishnah is talking about. Now, why does it talk about this? Because this is the criterion for a gistra. If remember we learned about klei cheres when they lose their tumah. If a klei cheres breaks and there's a shard that's big enough to hold a revius of water, then it still stays tameh. Okay, because you could still use it to, and kli cheres is like the junk kalim anyway. So people aren't that fussy. Oh, okay, I'll use this for scooping water. It's not like a big like an on a key that you would worry about putting on the table. But if that gistra has got a hole in that admits water, that's nothing. It's not. There's no tumor, and that's our nafkamina over here.
It lets water in, but it lets water out also.
Right. So if it lets water in, then it will also let water out.
Right.
But if it just lets water out, then it still can be used, and it's considered and it's still tame. Okay, cool. Eber sheyesh bo tziporin, yesh bo etzim. Okay, so now here also we're talking about dinim of tuma and tara. If somebody has a vestigial digit, and I've actually seen this. I've got a friend who had a child who was born with a vestigial finger,
Mhm.
and just like it looked like this little spike coming out of the side of her hand,
Right.
and it didn't look like a finger. I mean, it looked it was shaped in the right way, but it was just sticking out, and it didn't have a bone in it. Or did it might even have had a bone in it, to be honest. But I think she had on both hands. She had I think one side had a bone and one side didn't have a bone.
Mm.
Um, oh, and she had 6 toes as well, and they were just like perfect toes. It
That's weird.
was an a very interesting thing there. Anyway, they had them surgically removed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they said that it's just not fair to the kid to become an object of interest from everyone else.
Right.
Okay. So, but nonetheless, called Eva sheyesh bo tziporin. So if a limb has got a fingernail, yesh bo etzem, then that's a siman that it's got a bone. Now, why do we care if it's got a bone or not? Is because if it gets cut off, it's as an Eva minachai, is it tame? So
Uh-huh.
if it hasn't got a bone inside it, that's just a piece of flesh, and that's not so that won't be tame. But if it's got bone inside as well, and it's an aver, that's going to be tame, even if it's small. Okay, so your siman is if it's got a fingernail, then it's definitely got a bone inside it. But yesh bo etzim, but there are some that have a bone inside it, but ein bo tziporin. So just because it doesn't have a fingernail doesn't mean it's not tame. Okay.
Mm.
Next case, Mishnah. Mishnah Gimel. Kol ha-mitame midras. Anything that is susceptible to midras tuma, mitame tume mace. If it can receive midras tuma, it can receive mace tuma. V'yesh mitame tume mace, ve'eno mitame midras. Okay, that's a very easy case. Anything like you sit on a chair, or a carpet, or, anything that would be susceptible to midras tuma for sure is going to be tame mace. But this cup over here is susceptible to mace tuma, but it's not susceptible to midras tuma because nobody would sit on it or stand on
Right.
it. Okay, so that's just like massive category of things that would fall in between the two concentric circles. Okay, Mishnah Daled. Kol ra'oi ladun dinei nefashos, ra'oi ladun dinei mamonos, v'yesh ra'oi ladun dinei mamonos, v'eino ra'oi ladun dinei nefashos. Judges. So there's a much lower bar for judging civil cases than there is to judging capital cases. Okay, so and we're not talking about in terms of if a person is learned or not. In both cases, you have to know the halachas, obviously, but there are some restrictions that certain people cannot judge dinei nefashos. For example, a ger and a mamzer are not allowed to judge capital cases. Only a born Jew is allowed, who's not a mamzer, is allowed to judge capital cases. But you can have a ger or a mamzer who's learned a lot and is qualified to sit on a beis din. Okay, to judge a monetary case. Cause hakasher ladun, kasher laha'id. Okay, so now this is an interesting one. Here we are talking about judging about Mitzora. I think we're talking about oh no. It's we learn out from one of the cases learns out from Mitzora. Okay, so we're talking about judges. Again, we're still talking about court cases, and judges. Anyone who is kosher to be a judge is also for sure kosher to be a witness. But there are some people who can give testimony but are not allowed to be judges. Now, we say that this Mishnah is according to the opinion of Rabbi Meir, because
Mhm.
Rabbi Meir learns out as a from Mitzorah that if somebody is blind in one eye, then he cannot judge. He is not allowed to judge tsaras. He's not allowed to judge nagaim because it says le'enei hakohen. Okay, so a kohen who's only got one eye is not allowed to look at nagaim. Okay, so he says, and he has a halomdus that he Al pihem yakol riv v'nega. He learns out from this pasuk that there's a connection between a riv, which is a monetary case, and a nega, which is tsaras. So just like the somebody who's blind in one eye is puzzle for negaim, he's also puzzle for to judge on monetary cases. Okay, but the halacha actually does not follow Rabbi Meir. So even though it's cute to say it in the Mishnah and we say, okay, here's a nice another little Venn diagram, the halacha actually follows the Chachamim who disagree with him and say that just like a beis din is allowed to judge at night. Okay,
Right.
we're talking in monetary cases. And
Right.
I know from personal experience, we had a beis din case where we Dafka went and sat and gave all the testimony and whatever at nighttime. So there's no issue with day or night when it comes to a beis din. Okay,
Right.
and it's and that immediately takes it out of the category of nagaim because nagaim have to be viewed by day in a certain light, not mid morning or mid afternoon, not at noon, not not when in the golden hour. It's got to be in the specific times. Okay, so the halacha actually does not follow this Mishnah, but anyone who's kosher to be a witness is also kosher to be a judge in a monetary case. Okay,
All right.
sit for today.
Okay. We're going to Gimel Aleph. If a woman expels a fatherless man, and there is there is blood with it, she is tummy. But if not, she is tahor. Rabbi Yehuda says in either case, she is tummy. If a woman expels a red-colored object resembling a rind, a hair, a judge, dirt, or midges, let her put it in water. If it dissolves, she is tummy, and if not, she is tahor. If a woman aborts something resembling fish, locusts, abominable creatures, or crawling creatures, if there is blood with them, she is tummy, and if not, she is tahor. If a woman aborts something resembling a type of domesticated animal, wild animal, a fowl, whether it's not kosher or kosher species, if it is a male, she observes the period of Tuma and Tahara for a male. If it's a female, she observes the period of Tuma and Tahara for a female. And if the gender is not known, she observes the period of Tuma and Tahara for a male and for a female. And these are the words of Rav Meir. But the comments say anything that does not have something of a human form is not deemed a child. If a woman aborts an embryo full of water, full of blood, or full of multicolored matter, she does not need to be concerned that it is a child. If the embryo was developed, she must observe the periods of Tuma and Tahara of a male and a female.
Okay.
Okay.
Taurus, you're the Dalid.
One who places grapes taken from the baskets from the expanse on the ground onto the wine press. Beis Shammai says he must put them in the wine press, but put with hands that are tahor, and if he puts them in the wine press with hands that are tummy, that he has rendered the grapes tummy. Beis Hillel says he may put the grapes in the wine press with hands that are tummy, and can still separate their truma and tahara. If one took grapes from a bucket or from an expanse on leaves, everyone agrees that he must put them in the wine press with hands that are tahor, and if he put them in the wine press with hands that are tummy, he has rendered the grapes tummy. One who eats grapes taken from baskets from expanse on the ground, even if the grapes are cracked and the juice is dripping onto the wine press is tahor. If the grapes are from a bucket or from an expanse of leaves and a single grape fell onto the wine press, if the grape has a seal, the wine press is tahor. If it does not have a seal, the wine press is tummy. If a cluster of grapes fell from him and he pressed them onto an empty place or on the wine press, if the cluster consists of precisely the volume of an egg, the wine press is tahor, and if the cluster consists of more than a volume of an egg, the wine press is tummy, for as soon as the first drop of blood came out, it was rendered tummy by the volume of an egg. If someone was standing and talking on the brim of a pit of wine, and saliva spurted out of his mouth, and there is a doubt whether his saliva reached the pit or did not reach it, the uncertainty is ruled tahor.
Okay.
After this,
Huh?
what are we doing after Taharos?
After Taurus. Oh yeah, that's right. We're just changing over. And tomorrow is Mikvos.
Mikvos again? Back
Yeah,
to Mikvos?
yeah, everything's
Wow.
again. Everything's again.
Okay, the guy. Yud, Daled Yud. A Baharis the size of a gris expanded an additional gris, and living skin or white hair then appeared on the inside the expansion, and the original word nega disappeared. Rabbi Akiva read this tummy, and the sages say it must be examined and new. A Baharis half the size of a gris has no other symptoms inside it, and another Baharis half the size of a gris appears. One has one which has one white hair, the nega is confined. The Baharis half the size of a gris has one white hair. Another Baharis half the size of a gris appears, also having one white hair, and the nega is confined. A Baharis half the size of a gris has two white hairs. Another Baharis half the size of a gris appears, containing one white hair, and the nega is confined. A Baharis half the size of a gris has no other symptom inside it. Another Baharis half the size of a gris appears and has two hairs. The nega is confirmed because the sages stated that the Baharis preceded the white hair, the afflicted person is tummy, and the white hair preceded the Baharis is tahu. If it is uncertain, the afflicted person is tummy, but the Rebbe Shua disapproves of this ruling. Any doubt concerning the Gayim is ruled tahor, except for the last case and the next one. And what is the next case? Someone had a Baharis the size of a gris, and the Kohen confined. At the end of the week of confinement, it was the size of a salah. But if it's uncertain whether this is the original nega that spread or a different nega that replaced it, the Kohen Hamrud is confined tummy.
Okay.
And across. Okay, dollar check. If one is suspected of sabbatical year violations, we may not purchase from him flax, even combs, but we may purchase from him thread or braided ropes. If one is suspected of selling truma as an ordinary produce, we may not purchase from him even water or salt. And these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon says, whatever has a connection to truma and maisa may we not purchase from him. One who is suspected of sabbatical year violations is not suspected of transgression of the laws of maisa. One is suspected of maisa violations is not suspected of sabbatical year violations. One who is suspected of both of these violations is suspected of transgression of the laws of tahara. But in some cases, one who is suspected of tahara violations is not suspected of violating this one or that one. This is the rule. Whoever is suspected of something, whoever is suspected of something may neither judge nor testify concerning.
Yeah, that's interesting. We were just talking about judging and testifying, so they come together, and that's the halach. If you can't judge it, you can't testify it.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, base. If it was written by day and signed by night, or written by night and signed by night, or written by night by signed by day, it is valid. If it was written by day and signed by night, it's void. Reb Shimon, however, validates it. For Reb Shimon used to say all documents which were written by day and signed by night are void except for gittin. We write it with anything but with ink, with orpiment and reg pendant, with gum and with ferrous sulfate, or with anything which is lasting. We do not write with liquids, nor with fruit juice, nor with anything that is not lasting. We write it upon anything on the leaf of an olive tree, or on the horn of a cow, or he gives her the cow, or he gives her the slave, then gives her the slave, or Rebbe Yosef Gamil says, we do not write it on a living creature nor on food. We do not write it on something attached to the ground, but he wrote it on something attached and then detached it, completed it, and gave it to her, it's valid. The view that invalidates it unless it is writing and completion are done when it is attached. The Yehuda ben Sisera says we did not write it on paper which has been erased, nor an unfinished parchment, because it can be forged, and the sages however validate it.
Okay. Finally, Shabbos.
All right. Chedvav. Bone enough to make a spoon. Rabbi Yehuda says enough to make it with a tooth of a key. Glass enough to scrape the point of a weaver's needle. A pebble or stone large enough to throw it at a bird. Beverly Elliott says large enough to throw it at an animal. A shard large enough to place between one board and another. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Meir says large enough to pick up fire within. Rabbi Yossi says large enough to contain a quarter log. Rabbi Meir says, although there's no proof to the matter, there is an intimation of the matter, and there shall not be found among the pieces a shard with which to pick up fire from the hearth. If you returned, if you did, I'm sorry, retorted. Yossi retorted, is there proof from there? And their verse concludes, or to scoop up water from a pit. Rabbi Akiva says, from where do we learn that an object of idolatry transmits tumor contamination by carrying, like a menstruate? For it is stated, can cast them away like a menstruate. Go out, try not to say to it, shall you not say to it, you just as a menstruate transmits tumor contamination by carrying, so does an object of idolatry transmit tumor contamination by carrying. Well,
Okay, that's us.
I finished already?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Have a
Wonderful
great
day.
day. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
You will. Bye.